And we are back, folks, for another edition of Behind the Uniform, the series where we go in depth and inside what makes things tick for the players that you see on the field every single game. It's been an outstanding series thus far. If you missed any episodes, you can always check them out on our YouTube page, of course, over on the MichiganInsider.com. But every guy comes in, gives you a glimpse of what we're looking for, and that is for you to really be able to see who they are outside of game days, away from the field, what they do to get prepared to bring you what they bring you every single Saturday, or if it's basketball during the week. And joining us this week's guest is a guy that I've been covering since high school, and I first heard about him, I want to say it was either as a middle schooler or his freshman year in high school, because one of my good friends, Tim Rowley, big Michigan fan, he was like, hey, be looking out for this kid, Roman Wilson. I was like, man, a freshman? He's like, no, I'm telling you, he's going to be legit. He's a super fast kid, and lo and behold, a few years later, he picked up that scholarship offer to Michigan. Roman, how you doing?
Good. This is my first ever podcast, so I'm blessed that I can do it with you. So
well, hey, man, you remember you came in here, and it was on your visit, and we recorded, right over there. You're right over there. We recorded you coming in for your visit, so I remember that, but this is on another level for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I kind of want to go back to that point, and even before being a kid coming out of Hawaii, did you envision being a big-time, high-level Division I athlete back, say, maybe at that time when you were at that camp?
When I was younger, I always knew that I could make it that far. There's never any doubt, but as it plays out, and now that I'm living in the moment, it's like, oh wow, like I really made it this far. Like, not that I really beat the odds, but like, man, like I'm really here. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about.
So let's talk about the journey. So you had it in your mind that you could do it, but you got to prepare.
Yeah.
And so now, there have been big-time Division I and pro athletes from Hawaii, so you have actually seen the example. But what was your process like? I mean, I talked to your dad, Jeff, and he talked about pushing you and being real strict on you. When did you start to notice that to be the case, and when did you start to notice that, maybe things were a little bit more rigid for you compared to, like, your friends?
Yeah. My dad, like, made me and my brothers and my sister, like, work very hard. When I was, like, still, like, a little kid, before I could really start, like, working out, my dad would make, like, my siblings, there was, like, a mountain. They would, like, jog up the mountain on, like, weekends. Like, they were always, like, getting into something that would, like, help them. Like, my brother was always in the gym lifting weights for my dad. For me, it was, like, all right, like, go outside and go jump rope for, like, 30 minutes, or I think, now that I think about it, I remember I used to, like, after school, I'd walk to the gym as, like, a kid and meet my dad there from when he was getting off work. And it's so long ago, I can't remember what we were doing, but we were doing something. Like, I'm a little kid in the gym. Like, it's kind of crazy.
So, but your parents were D1 athletes, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
What
my
about
mom was. Yeah, my mom ran track. I don't know too much about it, but my dad was actually a very good boxer. I don't know too much about, like, their history and sports of that, but apparently, like, my mom is, like, some legend in St. Ignace.
You didn't know that? Yeah, I know that.
Well, I knew that, but, like, it's just like you meet people from St. Ignace and they're like, yeah, like, your mom's kind of a legend around here. And it's like, shit, I don't know.
Yeah, she's like in the record books kind of thing.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's in the genes. But he said, one of the things in talking to your dad, he said, I really felt like, that was the way to be, was to be super, super strict, super, super protective, super guarded about who's around him. Like, you got to keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. Well, how did you feel about that in the moment? Could you kind of see that, okay, this is how it should be, or did you kind of feel like, oh man, this is a little bit over the top?
As a kid, I never thought it was over the top. I was just like, man, like, my dad's, like, super strict, like borderline too much. Like, I never felt like it was too much for me. Like, I felt like he was, just a strict parent. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm older and I look back at it, like, yeah, he probably, like, did do the right things. He could have been a little better, but I'm not here, like, sitting here complaining. Like, I'm in a very good spot in my life. I really can't blame him either. Like, as I've gotten older, like, I realized, like, it's a very evil world out there. Mm-hmm. Like, you can you can become friends with the wrong group of people and change your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even now, like, if you hang out with the wrong people, like, I may not be focusing on football. Like, if I start talking to some girl, you know, she starts leading me in the wrong direction, you know, maybe that girl helps me make a decision that's not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think he did the right thing.
That's definitely,
Yeah.
that is definitely a thing,
Yeah.
for sure. I know your dad, Jeff, he was like, man, I had to apologize to him for how strict I was, but it feels like you're right, that what he did and how he was, it was way more good. It was way more in terms of preparation, in terms of helping you be ready. It was way more impactful and beneficial in that way. One of the things that I think about is the story I heard about you flying to school every day. So is that legit? Like, you know, you hear things and you wonder if it's an embellishment. Did you really fly to school every day?
So for about like 1 to 2 months, like when I was making that transition from island to a different island, my dad got a job at the airlines, and I like literally flew like to school every day, and sometimes I'd fly back. So that was like some of the craziest things I ever did in my life, and I honestly like can't even stand traveling because of it now. Like I just don't like airports. Like they're just.
So you wake up during that period in your life, or you're flying to school every day. You wake up at what time, and you walk through the doors of the school at what time?
So wake up like 4:30, go to the airport, get there like 5:30, flight's at 6:30. You land around like 7:20, and then sometimes my mom would get me like a cab, like Uber cab, like taxis were like cheaper, or a bus, and I get to school at like 7:40 or 7:50, 8 o'clock, and like, that's like right after school starts. And my teachers knew I was coming late, so like it was good.
So you're up 4 a.m. to get to school. 3.5 to 4 hours later.
Yeah.
And then have to do the same thing every day.
And have practice.
And have practice, and then fly home sometimes after that.
Yeah.
Dude. But, you know, you talk about discipline. You got to be disciplined to do that. And I really think when you look at now, I mean, not to say that it's easy, but at least the regimen part of it, doing the same thing every day part of it, it seemed like that must have been an easier adjustment for you than maybe a lot of others, you think?
Yeah, like it's definitely hard. Like in the moment back then, it's like it really made me not like school, like, or doing everything. So I'm like, man, like I'm working like 4 to 5 times as hard as people to do the same thing, or like it really showed me like how grateful I am, or like the opportunities I have, because these people are like, you're getting up, your parents taking you to school, they getting you breakfast, picking you up, like your parents got money, like they're gonna take care of you. Like I never had money, like my dad had to get a whole new job, like just so I can do this. So, you know, and it made it like a little easier for me too, because I know my dad didn't like working at the airlines. Like I knew it was hard for him too. Like even on like weekends when I was at home, like my dad's gone like all night. Like he's not even here, he's getting back like midnight. Not even midnight, like some crazy time in the morning, like I'm waking up and sometimes he's not even back yet. So, you know, it made me feel like, not feel better, but like, oh yeah, like I'm not the only one.
Yeah, man, sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, parents definitely put through that sacrifice. So one of the things though that he did was he got you out to camps. So take me back to the Michigan camp where you come basically to Jim Harbaugh's attention. Now, how much he really remembers, how much Jim Harbaugh really remembers from that, I don't know. But it was a meaningful moment for you. So take us back to that moment.
Yeah, I went to a lot of camps, but you know that was one of those camps where like I was like a kid. Like even growing up, I didn't watch that much college football, and I know like Coach Harbaugh, but I didn't think too much of him. But I knew that like I was gonna go to the camp and I was gonna like tear it up, because it had basically everything to do with, you know, being fast, like fastest man. We had like some other drills and like shuttles, and I was just winning all of them. So when I think there was like 5 main ones, but when I started winning, like I won 4 of them, and it was the last one, and the whole camp was around. And I was like, oh yeah, like I gotta win it now. And then he just called everyone up, and he was like, man, this guy's gonna be something great. Like I think that felt for me like, man, like I really could be something special. But then like at the same time, like they didn't offer me
But you were only like a eighth grade or a freshman, I think, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I get it. Like I was in 8th grade going into my freshman year, but like he just said like, man, he's gonna be something special, and then I don't hear back from him for like 3 years. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things you say though at a camp where you know a young kid looks good, you give a kid some confidence. You never know what he might become.
Yeah.
And you obviously became a really, really, really good player. One that was recruited by all the big timers on the West Coast. But I remember, because I know a great friend of the family of yours, I was talking about Tim earlier, he's like, man, this is a guy that Michigan has to get on and they should be on. And it seemed like it took a minute for that to happen. Do you remember the process of kind of getting Michigan's attention?
Yeah, I went to like the Nike opening and I ran like a 4.3, won like some MVP. Like I had a really good camp. Like that was basically like my first time where I put in a lot of work in the off season and went out to a camp and like played at like a really elite level. And I remember my friend was with me too, and I was telling him like on the way back on the flight, I was like, man, well, because it's like a 6-hour flight, so it was like a red eye. Mm-hmm. So I was telling him like when we land, like my phone's gonna blow up, like this is gonna change my life for real. And then my phone was blowing up. I was at school the next morning. Oregon called me. They offered me. I think Tennessee called right after. I was going to math class, and then Coach Gattis called me and was like, yo, like, you got time to talk? I was like, who is this? He's like, I was Coach Gattis at Michigan. I was like, yeah, I got some time to talk. So it was cool. And then that was the one, too, where I went back in the class, and I was telling people, like, oh, Michigan just offered me. Like, they couldn't believe it. But for me, I was like, I don't really care too much, like, about Michigan at the time. Like, I was really excited about the Oregon offer, actually.
Yeah, man. It was, to take people back real quick to the camp, that was one of Michigan's satellite camps. So between 8th and 9th grade year where you won that fastest man and won all those awards, that was when Michigan was going around taking their camp all over the world, right? They had gone to Australia even. So, but there was no through line from that camp to Michigan. It was kind of like, when Gattis called you, I don't even know if he knew that you had done that Michigan camp the years before, right? So it wasn't this straight line from here to there. But when did it start to be, all right, I want to go to Michigan? Because you said you were feeling Oregon a little more. I think Cal was in there at one point.
I really wanted to go to Cal, like UCLA, and Oregon. But I don't know, something like I just woke up one day and like something was just like telling me that like, yeah, Michigan's definitely like the school for you. Just being like, because my parents always wanted me to get a good education, so that's because it really came down to Cal and Michigan, and it was just something that I was just like, man, like Michigan's really like, I got an opportunity to help this team like reach one of its goals, and that's a national championship. And one thing I was thinking about too, like if I could be an above average receiver, and with my skill set, I know I can go the distance. But if I go to a different school, I could be a really good receiver and, fall late or maybe never reach my goal of going to the NFL. Or even like I could be the best receiver in the nation, but we're not going to the playoffs because we lost 2 games. Like I felt like at Michigan, we lose 1 game, we're going to the playoffs. I felt like we could really go undefeated and, take it the distance too. So that's why I really wanted to come here.
So you come to Michigan though, and everything, the world basically comes to a standstill because it's the COVID year. And then you actually get out there and start playing, and it's not a championship team. So as a freshman, what do you remember about that experience? What was it like for you?
2020, like in Hawaii, before I came to college, like that was probably the best time of my life, just chilling all day, like work out, go home, do nothing all day. Then I came to Michigan, it was like, well, work out, well, we don't know if we're going to have a season, but you're going to have practice and you're going to work out. And I'm just like, well, we're not having a season. Like, what are we doing out here? And then they canceled it, and we was just like working out for the longest time, like doing nothing. Like, you're not allowed to go out. Like, you can't go like meet new people. So work out, go home, do nothing. Like, don't leave your house. Like, you got to remember, like, I'm from Hawaii. Like, you can go to the beach and you can go to the park. No, like, you're not going nowhere here. And it was awful. For me, it was bad, bro. I didn't like it. And then we started playing. I remember we came out in Minnesota. It was cold. Like, season starts and it's already cold. So we're out in Minnesota playing, and it was like cardboard cutouts. I'm like, bro, what are we doing? Like, it's just cardboard, and like we're not playing in front of nobody. Like, I forgot somebody scored a touchdown. I could hear him on the other side of the field, like talking. Like, this is not like at the moment. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. But being like a player, like I'm trying to do whatever I can to help the team though, because I was blessed enough to be in a position to play as a freshman. So basically, my whole focus was, just lock in, stay locked in, and do whatever you can to help this team win. And I was trying my best, but it sucks like how that season turned out for us. But looking back at it, that was probably one of the best things that happened to this team, because there was guys on that team where we were just like, oh yeah, like we can't just be like, we're not just going to be good just because we're Michigan. Like, we have to be good because we make this team good. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if people are taking that for granted. I don't know who this team was before 2020, but I just know that helped out like a lot of players like me and all the other guys coming in. They're like,
yeah, man. There were a lot of staff changes after that season too. One of them was not Josh Gattis though at that time. So what was it like with him as your coach? What do you remember about him being your coach?
He deep down, he's a very caring, loving guy. He's a very great guy, very great coach. He taught me everything I know, route running, like how to read defenses, like everything. I give that guy a lot of credit. He's a very, very good coach. Coached me like really hard. Sometimes a little too hard, but I know like deep down.
Kind of like your dad?
Yeah, I know he cares about me, but he coached me like really hard. If you guys could see the practice film from 2020, like 2021, you'd probably lose your mind, because that was some of the craziest like practices I've ever seen in my life, especially with like Joe Milton being there and how Gat was designing that offense. It just sucked that it never turned out to be like that in the game.
So give me an idea when you say if we had seen practices. I mean, what do you mean about that?
So there's this play, I don't know what the concept was, but I'm running over the field. Giles Jackson is on like a deep post, and Joe Milton like scrambles out the pocket. He's running to his left, and then throws the ball like 70 yards to Giles for like a touchdown in the 2-minute drill. And I'm like 50 yards down the field. So when he turns and he's getting ready to throw, I'm like, oh, he's throwing it to me. The ball's just flying over my head straight to Giles like for a touchdown. I think that was like the craziest thing ever. Like, I don't know. It was just like things like that just happened, and like it was
just
normal.
couldn't translate to the field though.
Yeah, it just never happened that way. Mm-hmm. But it's working out for everybody so far.
So you said everything that you know about football. So was it more as a high schooler you were just playing and then you kind of learned the game once you got to college?
Yeah. So in high school it was just like just beat the guy in front of you. But now like I'm reading defenses like 1 high, 2 high, nickel pressure, like things like that, like small things. I'm not perfect yet, but he really was like the first guy to start teaching me stuff. And like even I didn't even know what an RPO was until I got to college. So it's just things like that.
So when you get with a coach like that who basically schools you in the game, teaches you everything, how does it impact you when he leaves? Like, what do you remember about that?
When Coach Gattis was leaving, I felt like I used him as a very good resource and got a lot of information out of him. That whole whatever even happened, he probably felt like that was the best decision for him to go to Miami. And, when I talked to him, he's just like, hey, like, I'm proud of you. Like, you're going to be a great player. And, if you ever need anything, you call me up. So.
Was there ever any part of you that thought about going with him?
A little bit. Like, everyone, like, weighs their options a little bit, like, thinks about it in the off season. But I never really truly felt like I was going to leave. I just, like, you think about stuff, you go over it, but deep down, like, I knew I wasn't leaving. So,
So, you look at that 21 season, and I remember thinking, man, this is going to be a breakout year for Roman. Now, we'll get into your transition with Coach Bell being your coach here shortly. But, man, your speed, having a guy, maybe the fastest guy at the position, be able to take the top off the defense. It just felt like there were going to be some big plays in there for you. And it really took a minute for it to manifest. But the irony is, and I'm thinking about that Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
I remember you had a big play in that Wisconsin game. I don't remember if it was a double move, I believe. Yeah. And you shook the dude. You were a couple steps behind him. You had to jump up to get the ball. Now, I also remember at the time, though, you did that with a broken hand.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So sometime in the first half, I broke my wrist or something. You know, it was hurting at like halftime, but I didn't think it was broken. I remember I asked AJ, I was like, you got some like Advil or something, like ibuprofen? I took like 2 of them. It didn't really help me, but towards the end of the game, like my hand was like throbbing. I remember I asked like Trevor Keegan, I was like, oh, when you block people, does your wrist hurt? And they're like, sometimes. I was like, nah, bro, my shit hurt, bro. I can't move it.
Wait, so what, you broke your wrist and you let me take some Advil?
Yeah.
That reminds me, there was this great scene, Eddie Murphy Raw said put some tussin on it. Just put some tussin on everything. Advil is not going to heal a broken hand, but you played with it anyway.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? I mean, did it just, you know, the adrenaline kind of take care of the pain? Like what happened to allow you to be able to play with it that day?
I feel like that was just like something I had to do. Like we were playing Wisconsin. That was a big game for us. It wasn't like, it's not like we were blowing them out. Like it was a close game, and I don't think I started that game either. Like I came in after, like I was put in after, and I was like, you know, they said like I'm back, like starting again. Like the team needs me. Like I'm having a good game. Like I'm playing like pretty well. So for me, it was just like I just got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't like looking at my arm like, oh yeah, it's for sure broken. I was just like, something's wrong with it, but like I'm gonna be all right eventually. Like God's gonna take care of me. Like I'll be fine.
Now, how much time did you end up missing that season? You remember?
Just 1 week, just Nebraska, which like people said that was like the craziest game they've ever been in, and I just happened not to be there. So
yeah, had to come back, but it was one of those. That was one of those times where it felt like, man, you were picking up some momentum, and it got derailed a little bit. Now we'll get into that in the 22 season because it feels like every year. I know all players face some kind of adversity on a yearly basis, but man, it felt like with you, it was like really noticeable things, from obviously being a freshman during COVID year to breaking your hand your second year, your position coach leaving as well. There's some adversity. So let's really pick up there. Coach Bell takes over.
yeah.
He was already on the team, so there was some familiarity, but what was the transition like with him as your coach, and what would you say some of the similarities, some of the differences are with Coach Bell as your position coach versus Gat?
Yeah, Coach Bell being a guy who obviously has like a legendary career here at Michigan and like in the NFL, like it was different for him to come in here and like be a guy who's been in my shoes, who's sat in like the seat I sat in, like he knows how it works. Basically like a guy like that's a guy that's gonna love me up. Like when I'm down, like he's gonna love me up. Gat was more like just coach me really hard and make sure I know everything. But Coach Bell's like you good, like gonna text me all the time, like see how I'm doing, like things like that. So,
yeah, definitely, you can see that with his personality. And so, man, your receiver rooms had some really veteran guys who have been through a lot. How much did you lean on those guys, especially in those adversity-laden moments? I mean, how impactful were they, whether it was the transition from Gat to Bell, or when you broke your hand?
Like just me being who I am, I felt like I never really leaned on like a lot of my teammates. Like at times, like I feel like I should lean on my teammates, but for me, it was like I know God's gonna take care of me. Like more like me leaning on God. Like he brought me here. Like he's gonna take care of me. I know how it is. But at the same time, like me and the veteran guys, like we're also going through it at the same time. Like the same things happen to both of us. Like we're in the same situation here. So,
well, I mean, I tell you what, you look at the adversity Ronnie went through at the beginning of 21.
Yeah.
Where he's killing it in that opening game, and then he goes down for the season. The reason why I asked the question is I wonder, when you break your hand, is that a dude you could talk to? Like, I mean, you're going through it right now.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to have someone like that to lean on to kind of talk to you about how you deal with this injury, because you wind up in 22 having some injury adversity again as well. But you're saying it was basically all you guys kind of were going through it together.
Besides like reaching out to Ronnie, like making sure he's okay, like physically, like mentally, for me, once when I broke my wrist and found out about it and got x-rays, like I kind of knew that I was, like in my mind, there was no like way I wasn't coming back. Like I was for sure coming back and like playing in whatever games I can. That's just
with a broken hand, a receiver.
Yeah. When I was in Pop Warner, I actually broke my other hand. I broke like a finger, and I played in Pop Warner with a pink cast on. So, and I was like balling too with a big ass like club. My bad. I had like a big club on, and I was doing good. So, you know, I've kind of did it before, but you know, all I really needed was like my fingers. So it was good. It was hard, but it wasn't easy.
All right. So before we get to 22, I want to get to another sort of impactful thing for all of you guys, and that is the advent of NIL.
Yeah.
So now you can really make some money off of this, which you guys already should have been able to do. But Michigan is kind of trending up. I mean, you're a playoff team. I mean, you got all this momentum that would seem to kind of help your ability to go out and get deals and make money. What has the NIL process been like for you so far from the start until now?
It's been pretty smooth. Like me being a guy who has like now I have YouTube or like TikTok, Instagram, like I can make money off that, and like basically just like live like a above average. Like I remember one time me and Dro were driving around and we had just gotten food, and I was like, isn't it nice that like we can get food like and not have to like worry about it? Cause before I had like no money. Like I was going to Chipotle, like God, I got no money for Chipotle. Like can I get like chips and queso like on the side? Like I'm barely like, cause I did not like dorm food and things like that. So I always was going out to get food. And for me, it was like, man, like I really can't afford this. I remember one time I overdid my bank account. I was down like $100 and I was like, yeah, this sucks. But hopefully I never have to go back to that because of NIL.
Yeah, man, it puts into perspective though. People don't think it's like that for student athletes, guys on especially at the big programs, and it absolutely was like that. So NIL allows you to not have that be the case. How have you gotten your deals? Do you have someone getting your deals for you? Do you go and seek them out? How's that process been?
Yeah, so I have a marketing agent who like reached out to me at the beginning of NIL, and I kind of stuck with him because he's been very well for me. And also like through Michigan, like sometimes donors or people will like reach out, or like how you guys did, just like text me and like send me details. And if it's something that I'm interested in, like I'm all for it. So.
All right, so I know part of this process is it's a learning process for you as well, right? So you got to learn about taxes and investments and that kind of thing. So I know that's been a process that you learn more about through your kind of meeting and connecting with Morgan Stanley. What was maybe your biggest takeaways from that part of it?
Just basically not leaving my money in my bank account and doing nothing with it. Trying to like protect my money and my assets and make money off my money. One thing for me, like when I figured out about taxes, I was like, how much you trying to take from me? Like it's kind of crazy. So for me, it was like, oh, I gotta save money too. Like I can't just spend all my money because I have responsibilities now. Like I'm not under my parents no more. Like I have to watch out for myself, and basically just like learning more about the process and how it treats you and how you can generate more and more money over time.
Yeah, man, it was probably a rude awakening for the majority of student athletes across the college landscape when the first tax season hit, because it felt like a lot of athletes just did not plan for that at all. Were you one of those?
A little bit, but I kind of saved like some money aside, but I wish I would have saved more. But I can't imagine how some other people are, but I feel like I'm a little bit more mature and responsible than how some of the guys are.
So now, is that a conversation? You guys talk about ball a lot, obviously, but do you talk about NIL with your teammates?
Sometimes like we like to like make jokes around like people on the team, like, oh no, like you got money or he got the most money, because like we don't know how much numbers people make, but like, oh, I know you got money, like I know you're like top 3 on the team. It's a good joke, like.
But it hasn't led to any sort of any locker, because you hear stories about other places about locker room issues due to NIL.
No.
But it seems like that's never been a case for you guys.
No, not really. I feel like Michigan's did a good job like keeping the players like focused on football instead of just making a lot of money, which like it would be nice to have both, but the main reason I'm here is to play football, not to make money. Like I'm gonna make money like somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. All right. So, look, you guys came back and had another big-time season. That, the big deal there is it puts you back in playoff contention. Secondarily, it obviously raises your NIL profile. But I want to go back to that offseason between 21 and 22 and kind of compare it to this offseason. Can you take me back to what you remember? Because what I remember most is, you had a really good team coming back, but, man, it felt like there were some real question marks at quarterback, even within the team. I felt like I knew JJ was going to be the guy. How did you feel at the time? Did you have a prediction about who it was going to be? What did you think?
I'm trying not to think about it too much. I know that both of them are very good players. People like to say they're different. I don't think it really matters. I think both of them are really good. And I was just like, whoever the coach had decided to be my quarterback, like, I'm going to ball out for them. I'm going to make sure I'm there to make plays. Like, I'm going to make sure they look good. You know what I'm saying? So it was never really a big deal for me. Maybe it was for other people. But for me personally, like, it was basically like, I'm like, whoever's my guy, like, you're my guy. But, whoever's the backup, you're my guy too.
So one of the difficult things I imagine, though, as a receiver, chemistry with the quarterback is a big, big deal. You guys have kind of like this subliminal relationship after a while of working together. And with JJ kind of missing last offseason, limited the ability to really form that connection. So how long did it take? Can you kind of think back to when in the season you felt like, oh, he knows where I'm going to be if a play breaks down?
I think it definitely started as a team, that Ohio State game, like with CJ, and then it translated into Purdue, like some of the balls he was throwing, like, oh yeah, this guy, like, we finally got some chemistry now. Like, and it really did hurt, like, when we was still building into it, because I knew that it was just because, like, we just haven't had that chemistry yet. That's why we wasn't making that connection. And then, you go to the TCU game and it's like, oh yeah, like I know where it's going to be now. Like,
right.
you know where I'm going to be. I know, like, where you going to put it. So it was good for me.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. People might think it only takes a couple of games to do that. But, he didn't go through spring ball. He really didn't get a chance to throw at you guys until fall camp. And then once you get in the season, it's not like you can just work the passing game, especially when you run the football as well as you guys did. So you said it took you really till the Ohio State game to feel it. Man, you get in that game, Roman, and it felt like to me, looking at the way that they played that defense, I don't know if they watched the Illinois tape the week before and said we could do that, but man, it felt like they thought they were going to be able to cover you guys with just, getting up in your faces, and it wound up being a problem for them. What do you remember about that Ohio State game?
Even just like watching film, like I'm never gonna like talk down on like anybody, but like watching film, I was just like, oh yeah, like we just played, like Illinois' defense was like legit, and then you come in Ohio State, it's like, well, I don't think these guys are as good as them. Like, you pull on my film, you pull on his film, like, oh yeah, I'm better than you. You put on Ronnie's film, like, oh yeah, he's gonna win that matchup. Even like CJ, like, I never like. Yeah, I don't feel like it was ever like that scary of an issue.
So, it's funny that you say that. We had a lot of offensive guys, but the ones that stick out to me were Trevor and Zach.
Yeah.
And they were like, we watched the Illinois film, and we knew immediately that's the best defense we're going to see all year. Do you feel like that when you watched the Illinois tape too?
Yeah, definitely their defensive backs. I'm not going to say they're like unstoppable or whatever, but man, there's some legit players. And even when Witherspoon was getting drafted, people were like, oh, they had him like 5 on the list. I'm like, nah, that guy's number 1, bro. And then he got drafted so high, and I was not surprised at all. Like, you pull on his film, it's a legit player.
Yeah, so, I keep seeing references to 5 big plays in the Ohio State game. They focus on 5 big plays. And what I focus on, this is me saying it, not you. I'm saying they're lucky it was only 5 plays, because I saw more plays out there like that. For instance, on CJ's first touchdown, there's a 0 blitz, and obviously he's one-on-one on the outside. He gets the ball, he breaks 1 tackle, he's off to the races. But if we watched that film, you were running open on that play too, right?
Well, it's 0. Like, any receiver should, no matter who you are, like, you should be disrespected if a defense decides to run 0 on you, because like all 3, 4, how many receivers you got out there, they should all be open. You know, if that's the type of mindset you have, that's what you should be thinking. So I feel like he could throw the ball to anyone, and we're gonna make a play on that.
Yeah, man. And so I see that play, see your speed. This is my impression, and you know, you're a humble dude. I know that about you. I just feel like watching you, there isn't the kind of appreciation for all the skills that you bring to people. Don't know how good you are. How do you feel? Do you feel like there are pieces of you that people haven't seen, pieces of your game people haven't seen yet?
Sometimes I feel like that, but you know, like not much. I feel like people like they know what I bring to the table and like how dynamic I can be. I feel like I've shown like a good amount of it. I feel like I can take it to the next level, or I can play better. So
where are you? So every guy is looking to get better year after year. I mean, part of it is out of your control. It's like if you can just stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it because you've had the injury adversity the last couple of years. Like last year, it was concussion protocol. Then I know you got sick at one point, right?
Yeah.
So there were a couple of games in there. So if the health thing stays cool, then that's part of the opportunity. The other part is where are you better? Like what have you improved? What aspects of your game are on another level, you think?
Yeah. For me, I did a big my majority of off-season work was working on my short game, like shorter routes, not necessarily deep ball. Like I've been doing deep ball stuff like my whole life, like corner post, go balls, like all that stuff. But for me, it was being more of a like short game guy. Like can we throw the guy, like can we throw him a slant? Mm-hmm. Can we throw him a quick out? Can we throw him like an option route? Like can we give him the ball that way? So that was a big like deal for me, like working on that. Like I feel like every day I did something to try to get better at that.
Mm-hmm. So are you any bigger, you think?
Last year I played probably like 182, 81. I'm like 193 right now. So
okay.
I'll probably play the season like 189.
Okay, so still same speed? Because
yeah.
I remember hearing a story about you in high school that you won the state 100-meter title, and I think the time was 10.69 in the rain. That's what Tim keeps telling me. You ran a 10.69 in the rain. So is that part legit, or is that urban legend too?
I mean, I definitely did run at least like 10.6, but I'm running into the wind and rain, so that probably definitely ran faster than that. But I don't really think about it too much.
So you weren't 193 at that time. You're 193 now. Are you still running as fast?
I'm probably moving faster than that. So
okay,
I feel good.
So who's the fastest guy on the team?
I'm always gonna say me. I'm definitely the most explosive, like dynamic guy on the team. So.
All right, so let me give you some other candidates because we had Darrius in, and Darrius said the fastest guy on the team, without question, is Iman Dennis.
Yeah.
So have you guys ever had a foot race?
Every time we've had a race, I haven't really been like at my best. so I think like if you go top 4, like since I've been here, or even 5, it's probably like no order. Like me, Iman, now Marion, and Dax, and then DJ. But DJ, he wasn't moving until last year. Like I never seen him move that fast before. So whatever he did, I'm trying to get some of that, bro. But yeah, I mean it's different though. Like Iman, I don't even want to say this, but like I'm a fast guy. Like I get out quick, but those guys like they get out slower than me, but then they build into it over time.
Mm-hmm. So they when they get in their kick, it's like another gear.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah. So Marion, man, people have been talking about his freakiness and twitchiness since he arrived on campus. Now he had to get bigger, but looking at some of his drills, he was automatically one of the ones that they put out there as the fastest guy. So have you raced him?
Not yet. I mean, we don't really like race too much. It's
just
like
look at times.
We look at like times and our miles per hour, but I haven't really raced him yet.
All right. So, but
yeah, I mean, he's
you're
moving.
The fastest guy.
He's just like we're probably right there, like both of us. So
okay.
And then throw Iman in there.
All right. So when you look at what that might mean for the offense, of course we know that Mariano's on the other side of the ball now, but you got some guys who can run, right? And you got a couple of veteran guy, or a veteran guy, CJ, who's it's not like he's a slow guy either, right? So you got some fast guys out there. How do you think the offense is going to, are we going to see, you think, more of that? Here's why I asked that question. You just said it took until the Ohio State game for the chemistry to really be there.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like shots weren't taken early in the year. They took shots. Just calibration was off. JJ overthrew a few. His shoulder was getting healthy, getting to know you guys and how fast you were. But then you hit the Ohio State game. Then you hit the Purdue game. I remember the route to Colston in the end zone where he threw it up. Then the TCU game. There were a couple of interceptions in there, but man, you guys were going up and down the field on them through the air. So that's why I asked the question. As you look at this year, seeing the chemistry that you guys established by the end of the year in the throw game, now you got Coach Moore on the ones and twos, solely. How do you think the offense is going to be impacted by that? Is it going to look any different? You think it's going to be totally the same? What do you think?
Yeah, as far as how this offseason has looked before camp, I felt like we've looked probably better than we have in a long time. Maybe that's just me getting back into it, but man, I keep telling myself and telling people man, we look really good. As far as straight passing plays, man, we look amazing. I really do I love being out there and just running routes, and I know I know what's gonna happen. I know where he's gonna put the ball. It's perfect. Every time. I can't really complain.
Yeah, that was one of the things I kept talking to guys about. You try to check what players are saying and what coaches are saying, and vice versa. To see if they're the same. And the word about JJ was man, this dude is just, not to say perfect, but he's looking really good and probably very, very few mistakes. A lot of clean football. Perfectly placed balls. As a receiver, what did you see during the spring? What are you seeing in the offseason?
He's just taking his game to a whole different level. We were watching a film a couple of days ago, and I'm like, bro, got 3 plates of food in there. I'm like, bro, you been here since the morning? You got dishes stacked up in the film room? That's just how much I know he's dedicated his time to, and I know it's hard for him coming off an injury. And then being a first-year starter, that's no easy task for anybody. And you can just tell that now he's a lot more comfortable. He knows what it takes. And I feel like he's going to have a very big year.
So get back to what we were talking about earlier about coming off the Georgia game. Now, Georgia had, they're like the 85 Bears. And I know that's before your time. But when I think of unbelievable defenses that people are going to be talking about for a long time, NFL, you think about 85 Bears. You think about the Ravens, I think it was 01. When we think about great college defenses, we're going to be talking about that Georgia defense. What was 5 or 6 first-round picks? They were unbelievable.
Probably more than that.
Right. So, when you add the next year, there were more first-round picks on there. So everyone who watched that game tipped the cap and said, all right, that was a better team. Yeah. All right, you got to up your game to beat a team like that. Fast forward to last playoff against TCU, and I always qualify it by saying this is not meant as any disrespect to TCU, but I felt like you guys were the better team. I felt like you guys were, were it not for a series of mistakes, I think you blow them out, right? And so, but that didn't happen. So when you come off a game like that, where you felt like you should have beaten the team that you lost to, does it hit you any different as far as your preparation? The next offseason, are there any differences between how you guys are grinding this offseason compared to last offseason?
Yeah, definitely this year, people are still working really hard, but it just comes down to the little details. You want to say that game came up to us, well, we have to make sure it never comes down to us losing that game ever again. Like I was telling you before, you come into the weight room, you see how Coach Harbaugh say conducts our business. You see the shoes lined up, so we do. One shoe faces this way, one faces that way, perfectly up to the wall. And you're going to see that throughout the whole weight room. You're going to look at our weights. The M is always going to be just like that, never turned a little bit, always perfect. People like to say you can't get perfect, but you can make sure you can get the closest you can. Coach Herb gets mad, you come in there, if your shoes are not touching the wall, that's a big deal. If you put your Gatorade bottle down on the line and that G's not facing forward, that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference between us winning and losing that game is that G facing forward. And it applies to everybody, not just the starters. If you're a freshman, you never know when a freshman is going to come into the game and play. I try to tell the young guys, yeah, you're going to get your chance this year. What are you going to do when you're out there? You're going to you're gonna mess the play up. You know, you're gonna make sure your G's facing the right way. You're gonna run the right route, catch the ball. Like, it really comes down to that stuff.
Yeah, it teaches you to have attention to detail.
Yeah,
It sounds like what you're talking about. So when you think back to the TCU game, I remember talking to Will. He said he felt like maybe it was, you guys were maybe too keyed up for it. What do you think? When you look back on not being able to play your best game that day, have you thought about what might have led to that?
Like looking back at it, I don't know what went wrong. Like, I try not to think about it. It just sucks because everybody on the team knows we could have and should have won that game. They made some plays, we made more plays, but it just happened that it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, well, whatever it was, it certainly has helped fuel the sharpness of the focus heading into this season. Another adjustment, though, is Coach Moore.
Yeah.
Coach Moore being on the ones and twos, as I said himself. What impact, if any, do you have a feel for what kind of impact that may have? Could you feel like the rhythm of the offense last year between play callers? Did you ever notice that?
I never really noticed that, but you can definitely feel like a different type of play calling in. Like, I know what Coach Moore what plays he likes to run and what pass plays he likes to do, and I also know what Coach Weiss likes to do. Like, I know, this might be a Coach Weiss play because it's going to come in like an NFL type play. Like, there's going to be we're always going to make sure we're in the right play. It's going to be like one play. If you see a different coverage, it's going to be another play, like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, is it something that you guys, as you think about how things might be different? Because I said you got a beginning of the season and the end of the season. You guys were still a run. You were still a run first team, still a running team. But it just felt like, at least to me, you pushed the ball down the field a little more regularly. I don't know if that was just because they were successful, but it felt like there were more shot plays. So it may be not more pass plays, but of the pass plays you called, it felt like there were more shots. Is that accurate, and do you see that as maybe something that could be something we see this year?
Definitely for sure. Every team, I feel like every team, whatever level you are, if you can run the ball, you're going to do it. Like, if you can run the ball and get 5 yards every play, you're going to do it for sure. But as far as passing the ball, I feel like it's always been part of our game. I don't know how fans look at it. If we think we can't pass the ball, but as far as a quarterback, receiver, even coaches, we know we can do it 100%. If we had to go a whole game and just pass the ball, we could definitely do it. But going into this year, I feel like our pass game, on top of that, already looks a lot better. So I feel like that could be something we see a lot more of this year.
All right, so take me into the offseason. You guys have had some transfer additions. For instance, you had some early enrollees. I'm curious what your impressions, starting off first with the transfers, what your impressions of them have been. You maybe have seen A.J. Barner a little more because you're going to see him with the receivers as a tight end a little bit more. But even the offensive linemen, which you guys added a number of guys on that front, what have you kind of seen from them so far?
Who's that? A.J., Tut, Ladarius, Hinton, Nugent, and then Josh. And if I'm forgetting anybody else, all those guys have really bought into our culture. And Drake Nugent is probably the hardest working guy on the team, probably ever. That guy is actually insane. He puts in a lot of work. And everyone else brings a very good attitude, mindset to this team. And if you look at it, a lot of the guys who came in here were leaders and captains on their team. So they know what it takes to be a great team and be a good player and support others. So
you said Drake Nugent is the hardest working player you've ever seen. So
yeah.
Tell me what that looks like.
I think during I don't know if he was here in the spring. I don't know when it was, but they do this thing where they ride the bikes if you're not in practice, and you wear a heartbeat sensor. And they were saying this dude's heartbeat sensor, you have to hit a certain point. They say, this dude's just always insanely high, and he's always trying to kill himself and just bike as hard as he can and put in as much work as he can. I see him in the facility a lot. He's one of those guys where if I'm in there, he's in there. He's doing something to try to get better. And he's a huge, massive dude. That guy's gonna be a dude.
Okay. All right. So AJ is the one that you might see with the receivers.
Yeah.
What have you kind of seen from him so far?
Just being a guy like again, always asking me to come in and put in work with him. Like, always like too much. Like he don't call me anymore because I kept saying no, because he would ask me to come in at like 8 o'clock and catch with something. I'm like, bro, I'm not coming, bro. Like we were just there. Like I'm not coming back again. Like. So you must have found someone else to come in with him.
It's not like you don't get any extra work. You just
Yeah.
get your work in like right after the lift.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. And I'm just not.
But
like,
you're not going to get your work in after the lift.
Yeah.
Extra work in after the lift, then go home and then come back.
Yeah.
Again,
With him, he's like after the lift, he's like, oh, I want to go eat food. I'm like, bro, I'll eat later. Like try to work now and go home and then eat. He's like, oh, I'm gonna eat, and then once he eats, nobody's there. He's like, yo, you trying to come back in? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, it's crazy.
All right, so you mentioned talking to some of the young players in the receiver room. First of all, let's talk about your man, your guy, the guy on the other side in CJ. Another guy, veteran guy there. It seems like he's ready to take his game to another level. What have you seen from CJ?
He's playing at another level right now too. I feel like me and him, we really have to push each other to be like that number one guy. Like I feel like me and him have to be like really competitive this year. Me and him have taken our friendship to another level, and I want us to be like a duo out there that can really spark something for this team that we haven't seen in a long time. Like a guy who's like, oh yeah, let's just give it to one of those guys and let them make a play. That's what I want me and CJ to be.
So you got some young receivers that are ready to kind of maybe take a step. One of the guys I kept hearing a lot about even last year, he got a little bit of tick, is Tyler Moore. So what have been your impressions been of Tyler so far?
Tyler's been playing very well. Like I feel like he's probably, as of right now, he's going to fit into that spot. He plays very smooth, very competitively. He makes a lot of plays when the ball's his way. He knows his assignments, his routes, and probably a little more. So I feel like he's just been a very dependable guy for how young he is. And even like the other guys, everyone else plays very well. But I tell him like someone's gonna play. Like someone else is gonna be that third guy. Like me and CJ, we're the oldest. Like we're pretty much gonna play. But like someone else got to come in here and step up too.
So Amarion moves over. It feels like that is a natural kind of spot for someone, not to say that he was guaranteed to be in the slot, but it just felt like that was an opening for other guys to really step up and get more attention, at least from us on the outside. On the inside, you guys are already talking about Peyton O'Leary. But he comes out in that spring game, man, and it's like, who is this dude?
Yeah.
And after the spring game, we talked to him, and he was like, man, yeah, I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm going to play. So as a guy who's kind of seen him come along over the years, I mean, what have your thoughts on this progression been?
Even last year's spring ball and fall camp, he's played very well, very, very natural out there. And then he finally got put on a scholarship. And I feel like that finally gave him the confidence to be like, oh, yeah, I can play. But my challenge for him is to be like, can he come out there and make plays against like some of the best guys out there? Like when you come in the game, like, are you gonna make a play?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know he will. Like he's very good, and I see a very good future for him in a couple years.
So the young guys that came in early, so you got Samaj as an early guy, Frederick comes in as an early guy. I know Carmelo just got here. What have been your early impressions of those youngsters, those young receivers that just got here?
Melo, Samaj, and Fred are very like good guys. Like very well taught for what their age is. I feel like those three guys are going to be the future in a couple of years, and I feel like the sky's the limit for them. They're very good, and hopefully they get some playing time this year. For the young guys, it's just learning their playbook, and because I know they can come out there and make plays.
So we got a chance to the one who came in before you, the player who came in here before you was Darrius.
Yeah.
Your obviously receiver mate, and he talked about really looking up to you older guys and really learning how to work, even when you didn't know if you were going to play. One of the points you just made, like you telling the young guys, like, are you preparing like you're going to play?
Yeah.
And he said that was a big adjustment for him, that he feels like he learned last season. Have you seen that in him, and what about his progression?
I feel like these last couple of weeks, he's taken a next step into trying to fit himself into our offense. I feel like he knows he's going to play this year, and I feel like he's trying to do whatever he can to not just play this year, but just have like an amazing season. Very competitive. I know he wants to be great, and he's a very good player. Like, don't get me wrong, he's very good, and I feel like when he gets his chance, he's going to do well as well. All
right, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you before you got out of here about the defense, man. The defensive backs especially. You see them from a different view, and you got a chance to see them with Will basically being out for the most part. Like, he's been working his way back from off-season surgery. So what have you noticed about the play of the defensive backs? Because it's going to be a battle for that spot opposite Will.
Yeah, just as the corners, like, I see like a group that's taking a big step. Keshaun Harris is that's one of the other fast guys on the team too. Like, he's up there. I forgot about that.
So pause.
Yeah.
Because that's who Donovan put out there.
Yeah.
Was Keshaun Harris is the fastest guy. I think he may have said you were up there. So if I got that wrong, Donovan, I apologize. But I think he said you were up there too. But he mentioned Keshaun Harris by name. And that's another dude that, like, no one outside the program really has a firm accounting of. But all you guys inside the program keep talking about him as a dude who's really stepping up.
Yeah. Just as a DB, like, seeing him how he played last year, and like, no knock on Keshaun, but just like, oh yeah, like, he's gonna grab me, he's gonna hold on to me. But now he's out there, like, looking at him like, yeah, that's some good technique. Like, he's out there, like, strapping some people, and just like him believing in his speed, because there's no reason for him to not rely on his speed, how fast he is. Like, that's his trademark, and I feel like he has a good chance of stepping it up this year. And I was telling him, like, you see how it happened for DJ, like how quick it happened. Like, that can happen to you too. So, like, just keep working, man. Like, I keep telling him he looks good.
Ah, man, so I mean, was his speed always there, or is he taking his? Okay,
yeah,
so
he's a track
it's not
guy.
like DJ who just like, man, where did that come from?
I mean, Keyshawn's a track guy. He's been fast, so.
Okay.
I mean, DJ's fast too, but like, again, like, being fast and then being that fast, like, that's crazy.
So, can we expect you to run a 4.36 at the combine? That's DJ at the combine speed.
I thought you ran a 4.2.
Oh yeah, 4.26.
Yeah.
My bad, DJ. 4.26. You can get 4.26.
4.26 is no easy task, but I want to be surprised if I got it. I'm gonna have some good time to prepare for it whenever my time comes.
All right, and then a couple of the other DBs real quick. So Jay McBurrows is a guy who's in that mix.
Amarion,
Keshaun,
Josh.
and Josh. So what about, and Josh is a new guy. What have been your impressions of basically all those guys?
Yeah, so I haven't seen too much from Josh, just because, like, just haven't lined up against him yet. Haven't really, like, watched his film, but according to Mikey, like, he's going to be one of the guys competing for that too, and he's also out there looking really good. Jaden McBurrow's coming back from, like, injury still. He's still moving around well. He's going to have a really good chance to compete. And then Amarion just kind of building on spring, and he's still learning, but he's out there competing, and he's never done this before. Like, it's still impressive.
Yeah, I got you. Well, man, Roman, it has been a ton of fun. As we close things out, one of the things I like to do is give you guys an opportunity to highlight and shout out the people who helped you get here. We talked a lot about your dad, Jeff, who's obviously been key to your journey, but he said, man, there's been a lot of people along the way that have kind of helped you get here. So what about that?
Man, I couldn't even say the list to so many people. Like, both my parents, like, God, like, the people. I used to stay with people in high school, like, different families, like 3 different families. Mike Hogan, like, the Lewis family, and, like, the Molina family, like, Coach Gattis for offering me. I could literally go on forever. Like, I could keep going. Like, both.
So, hey, but you have a blog or a vlog that you actually could talk about. So tell people about your vlog and how they can see, where they can see you do, go through your life with you, basically.
So basically, I started a YouTube channel last year. Hopefully, I can keep building on it and making it into something, like, truly special. It's just like me going through life. Sometimes I like make the videos, I edit them so I think come out the way I want them to look. Like, shout out my YouTube channel. Like, if you want to see what it's like to play football, like, that's what I do. Like, what it's like to go to class and go to practice and kind of live my life.
You feel like, last one for you, Roman, because I remember talking to you as a recruit, you talk, but it wasn't like this. It feels like you know you have come a long way with how much of yourself you put out there. Is that legit, or were you always like this? We're just seeing it for the first time.
I'm definitely like a closed off guy. Like, I wouldn't say introverted, but I'm very like independent, and that's just been me like having to like step out into the spotlight a little more, like getting a bigger following, become an older guy on the team, basically getting like fans or whatever. Like I get recognized now, so it's definitely like I got to talk to more people all the time. They're like, "Yo, like you're Roman." I'm like, "Yeah." Like I got to talk to them for like 10 minutes or something. So you know, I'm getting better at it. I could still get better, but.
I know you're there, man.
Yeah.
You're right. You can still get better, but you're there. You're
Yeah.
there to the point where definitely the public
Yeah.
likes to hear from you, and as evidenced by how many people watch your vlog, they definitely want to see more. So, but appreciate your time, man. Thanks a lot for dropping by. I'm looking forward to seeing you this season.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
And that'll do it for this edition of Behind the Uniform. If you've ever missed an episode, you can always check them out on our YouTube channel, of course, where it all goes down. It's over on our website at themichiganinsider.com. Football, basketball, recruiting, you name it. You can always keep up when you follow us over on themichiganinsider.com on 24/7 Sports. Until the next time, thanks for watching another edition of Behind the Uniform.